Okay, so this video is probably going to be short, but it says retirement and life. I know it may seem corny, but anyway, I think about that kind of stuff a lot. And so that's probably why, um, like other people, I don't really hang around because I take life serious. And so, I'm not into hanging out and going to clubs and hanging out with different people and jumping here and jumping there. And, you know, when you begin to mature in life and you begin to think more serious about things, you start to distance yourself from people who are not serious about life and all they talk about is clothes and shoes and cars and things that are going to eventually get old and depreciate over time, that aren't going to carry them out, longevity wise. And, I guess too, that's why I don't hang around bad people. At least I try not to. And it's not just males. There's a lot of females out there that are really bad individuals, bad influences. Their visions are more about living it for now, for the day, not for the future. And they don't prepare. And so I spent like early wee hours in the morning and I was looking at different scenarios having to do with retirement. And so I don't know exactly which one I was on, but I was intrigued by it because there were people that all they did was talk about um, different investments, retirement investments. And so I think this was one site that I was looking at. And so I'll just pull it up because basically I'm just going to talk. I'm not really going to get into all of it because I feel like people can look this stuff up themselves if they're interested, if they're serious. Some people aren't serious, so they're not looking into this. They're more about sleeping with people and hanging out and laying up in the bed with folks and hanging out at clubs and getting, high or whatever and living day by day, promiscuous and, about clothes and shoes and looks and things like that. And I guess I really, to be honest, I'm not that kind of person. I never really was that kind of person. When I was younger, I guess I did what I thought, was expected, you know, but then so I decided to move on and mature and seek other things out in my life, pursue other avenues. And so, I know it seems to some people like this is boring, but I'm more into things like, what's going to happen 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Am I prepared? Even if something happens to me, am I prepared to leave something behind? Or, did I live my life, in a way where I was, at least not being bogged down by a lot of drama. So, everybody is not perfect. Everybody has their own set of issues, and even me. And so I'm willing to admit that. But is one thing that I can say by far, I don't have like, a bad relationship, divorces where I'm fighting in court and, fighting for my life, in some shelter, fighting because I'm a battered, woman, having people, you know, pursuing me like I'm some piece of property or something like that. That's something I just won't tolerate. And so that's probably the reason why I've worked so much not to get in a relationship and not to be involved with anybody. And they're going to find out, whoever runs into me would find out that I'm not into it. And so I'm probably not going to ever pursue a relationship at this point. And so I've already kind of put that in my head. Um, that's kind of what I want to do because just seen some really fucked up stuff in my life and I don't want to be a part of it. And so, and I've experienced some fucked up stuff from people. And so I don't want to be a part of that either. And so that's the reason why I work effortlessly to not be involved with anyone. You know, I see just some of the videos, some of the way people talk about individuals on here, and that's, you know, that alone is a turn off. And so, you know, so that's the reason why I look to things like this, you know, like, investments, you know, what to do, you know, for future goals, things like that. That's more about me. You know, I don't like phonies. So don't come around trying to think that talking good is going to get me all riled up because it won't. The other thing is you know, I guess as you get, you know, if you've had some really long life experiences, you start to realize who are the bullshitters. And so I know all the bullshitters. I seem to be good at detecting bullshitter. I have a bullshit radar. So anyway, it's just I spent the whole wee hours looking at different things people do. You know, some people get this through their job, but sometimes I noticed over the years that even with the jobs, when they offer retirement packages, some of them are good, but they don't last. And so you have to have additional things to carry you out, especially when you get to an age, if you live long enough to enjoy that. What are you going to do, especially even with an emergency? And I don't think some people think past this. They don't even get to this because they look at it as, oh, that's what people do when they're old. You don't wait till you get old to start thinking about this. You do it while you're at an age where you're right in your prime or even before, so that when you get to that point, if you live long enough, that you can kind of relax and you have options. But I was looking at some of the comments some people were making, and it was dealing or surrounded by um, retirement, and then the other topic was mortgage. People who have been homeowners, and they talked about mortgages and retirement, and they were talking about, you know, should they pay off their mortgage? Is it worth it? Then a lot of talk was about the 2008 recession, and then there was some other talk about, you know, should they, you know, have additional retirement investments along with paying off the mortgage? Or a lot of people made the response that it feels good to be debt free, and they like being debt free. And then I seen one guy, I was laughing. His response was, your house rich, but your cash broke. In other words, you have no investment money saved up that you've invested for other things in your life that could come about. You just have this house, you paid off your mortgage, and now what? You know, you've got this money, but you have not really, you know, you've got money to burn, but you haven't invested it in what you have now into other avenues that can also be beneficial for your, you know, your livelihood. And so I thought those things were interesting, but this may sound corny and boring. So this is the reason why I don't have a lot of connection with people of my age group, because they think about cars, they think about sex, they think about, you know, getting high and sleeping with different people and hanging out on the street, and, you know, who's going to get up in this person and who's going to fight and all that. And so that's why I've never really connected with people very well, because my mind thinks a lot different. So, and I feel that's a good thing. You know, some people think, oh, wow, you're boring and whatever. And I actually like it because it has kept me as long as I have, and it's kept me away from the idiots. So, you know, I see quite a few of them. I've seen that I hadn't even met these people in person, but judging from some of the stuff that they say, I can kind of see what kind of people they are before, if I ever was to meet them, I would already know because I can hear how they sound. what kind of stuff they talk about, you know. But anyway, you know, I have my moments when I'm up or when I want to do spontaneous stuff, but not to the point to where it's going to get me in some kind of trouble or anything. But anyway, I just thought it was intriguing. There were like a lot of comments. My thing is that most of the people that were talking, I would bet that most of them weren't African American. And if they were, there were a few, and they might have been at an age where they were a lot more like mature adults. The rest, from the way the conversation entailed, sound like most of those people were like white people. And they were talking about retirement investment and all the different things. And I'm noticing that is a big problem with the, you know, at my age group, you know, people who are in their like 30s and 40s in Black community, if they're not involved in anything serious other than buying a new car and sleeping with someone, and that's their own main goal. You know, most of the times that seems to be the driving force, or who shot whom, or you know, who's divorcing and what crazy dramas going on with that. And it just seems like they can't get past some of those issues, although those issues do kind of, you know, depending on who it is, it does kind of, you know, draw your attention for a moment. But you know, just within your life, you know, span, like what would happen, what do you have any aspirations in your life to do anything, you know, to better yourself? And I don't hear a lot of talk from people like that in that fashion, and it's kind of sad, and that kind of shows you the mentality of people and the reason why some of the things that people claim they want or they aspire to be never really works out, because they don't strive for those things initially. What they're looking at is like momentary or temporary gratification, not anything that they've invested in or they've saved up for or they have patience to wait for. It's more about playing games. And I guess that's what I've been unattracted to most of the time with some people, is the gamers. And I'm not talking about video games, but I feel like some people live their life like they're in a video game. But anyway, I thought this is important to mention because, you know, there's so much talk in the African American community about economics, but you never see anybody really trying to do something, maybe to start with themselves, even to try to say, you know, I'm going to change something that I never did before about myself and try to, you know, save up, you know, in case there's an emergency, and I'm going to try to, you know, see if I can get involved in some kind of retirement plan or anything, you know, that would be beneficial to like 5, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, even have any types of goals. You don't never really hear people talking like that. It's about right now. And so I guess some of that is because people, when they're younger, they don't think that it's an issue they have to worry about. And they don't look at these things as serious until they start probably hitting their 50s. And then it's kind of late, you know. And it's not like it can't happen, like people can't, you know, change their tune. But some people, it hits them like when they get in like a series of maybe drama in their life, and when they've had some real life lessons or experiences, that's when they decide. Some people will decide to actually change what personality they used to be into something more mature and more, there's more growth behind it. And so I feel like people spend too much time worrying about relationships and who they're going to get involved with, and you know, things like that. And I guess if some people, that's what they want, then that's them, but that's not what I want. And so, you know, people sometimes they don't like it when you have specific goals in your head, and they don't have the same thing going for them, and so they get angry with you, and then begin to bully, or they begin to be a thorn in your side, and their aspirations and what they want is right now. And so I guess that's the reason why I found these articles pretty intriguing, when it talked about retirement investments and stuff, because I really don't hear people doing that. It's about spending money and being consumers and giving money to people for donations of causes that you never are going to see actually take off. And how is it going to benefit you? When really people should be talking about, are you going to put money away for your kids' college tuition, if that, or if you're going to invest in, like some type of REITs. And what I mean by REITs, or, let me clarify that, because some people will be like, what are you talking about, REITs? These are different in retirement investments. And I was looking at, it might have been the first one. I know some people will get involved in CDs, stocks, and bonds, and then some people will get involved. Like, I heard some guy who was saying he was involved in Bitcoin, and some people were saying that eventually that was going to probably end up, but that was more sound like trying to build money in another way. Then there's REITs is what I was looking at. Sort of like income producing, I guess, closed-end funds, something like that. But, I don't know how, I'm not into the Bitcoin thing. I know I've heard some people say they're into it, and they say it's pretty good. But then REITs, maybe I'm saying it, it's real estate investment trust. That's what I was looking at. And, getting a portfolio together and talking to a consultant, somebody that is able to give you like the ins and outs of things like this. But I notice a lot of people, they're not really into the real deal of what are they going to do with their future. It's no use in them going over any of this if people don't have any goals or aspirations in their heart. So the thing is what I'm saying is that that's probably the reason why I'm very like, how would you say, like to myself when it comes to dealing with people, some people say they're peers rather. I guess I'm more off to myself because I don't find people of my age group talking or thinking the way I do. And I haven't for quite some time. I just kind of went through the motions when I was a lot younger. But as I started to get, like, I say, like when I started to get in my 30s, I actually was thinking like this in my 30s, but it didn't really quite really develop until I started hitting my late 30s. And then I realized, wow, there's a lot that I would want to do. But then I said, do I want to do this with someone? I said, no, not really. When I saw all the craziness out there and some of the experiences I've had and some of the things that I've experienced with individuals, I said, I think I want to do this by myself. And I don't want to be involved with anyone. Just my immediate family, and that's it. I don't really want to venture down the road of, marriage and all that kind of stuff. So I know it seems crazy to some people to hear that, but I'm probably like extremely different. So and I don't want any boyfriends. I don't want that either. I don't want anyone. So I know that seems pretty, I just want to be, I want to put my head into something else. I have some aspirations that require me, myself, and I. pretty much. And so I'm honest about that. But anyway, this, I don't know how long this video took. It's probably the most boringest video out of my other videos. Uh, might be boring because it talks about politics and serious like life, social issues or whatever. And so that maybe drives people away, but that's just me. I'm just that kind of individual. So, I spend my time, probably reading books, looking at documentaries, thinking about things like this, and maybe some other things too. But other than that, I'm not really into the crazy stuff. So, but yeah, so the other thing that I was tripping off of is, now this is going to sound pretty much a little bit different, so I'll probably add a little bit more to this. This could be, I guess, included in the life aspect of it. Right here, I was thinking about how hot it is. Anybody experiencing this heat? Because I live in California, so it's really hot out here. And I noticed over the years it's gotten really hot. And so I noticed people were talking about climate change. Climate change. And some people don't care, and other people think it's not real. And I, in fact, do think it is real, that climate change is real, and that it is happening. And, I just read a little background on it, a little feedback on it, that we're releasing a lot of greenhouse gases, carbon, and that, it's like plastic around the earth, where it's creating this dome where this heat stays in, and it gets hotter and hotter each year. It gets drier each summer, and that, our fossil fuels, we kind of abuse all of that, and pretty much a lot of the things that have happened, like trees being cut down and stuff like that. And so I know this is boring too, probably to some other people, but I believe that climate change is real. So I tried to look it up earlier. I was looking at it. I think it was in this thing called Energy. And so, it's patterns of changing in California across the planet since the mid 20th century. They said that the global warming trends attributed to the largely human activity on the planet. So it's talking about how greenhouse gases such as methane are released during fossil fuel extraction. And so it just went on. It gives you a background. If you want to look this up, it's an energy upgrade in California. So I was looking at these graphs and everything, and it was like over the years from 1950s all the way up to where we are now. And we're right somewhere in here, if you can see my cursor. And so it says that it gets worse as you go into these years right here. So the summers are hotter, extreme heat day thresholds, so it just seems like it gets worse and worse and worse. So they have it by San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles, so all the cities and stuff, and how it affects the future. And so I even think about things like that. I guess that's boring too. So, but anyway, how did I get into this? From retirement to life. I guess life, because I'm thinking about what's going to happen because of all the things that have been happening right now, how it's impacting people and how people are feeling at the moment. Not very happy. So it says there's little things that people can do to try to make changes, for the future. But, I know right now, as the way things are going with all of the social problems that we had here, people look at the future as being kind of bleak. But anyway, I'm going to probably end this video. But I really do believe climate change is real. And so I guess I'm adding to that in terms of the section on life. But I think these are things that people don't really think about. They don't think about their future. I guess that's my point. They think about the right now, what I can have now, self gratification, what makes them happy at the moment. And I know they probably go by that whole term, you only live once or whatever. But then too, you can expand on that and say, yeah, and if you live to be an older person, what have you done all of your younger years to get yourself set up so that you can live comfortably at least in your last, you know, decade or whatever. If you live that long, I don't know. But people don't really think about it. And so, stuff like this, like Money Magazine, Sensible Money, Retirement, 7 high return, low risk investment for retirees, things like, see, I think about these type of things because it's never too late to start thinking about those things, and you're never too young really to kind of get yourself kind of geared up for what am I going to do, what's going to happen to me 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's my life going to be like? Am I going to have, even emergencies, say like if something happens to you physically, like if you get sick, do you have anything to sustain you, at least for a while? So I've about those things pretty seriously more recently. And so I guess because of seeing people close to me have life-changing experiences, and so that's probably what's gotten me to thinking about it a lot more serious lately. But anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna let this video go. But I think that's the reason why I'm not really into some of the crazy stuff that I've witnessed. I plan to keep pursuing all the things that I planned. Not very many things, but they're very crucial things that are life changing and that are substantial for like longevity in my life. Those things I'm more interested in rather than, right now, you know, momentary stuff, things that you can't really, that won't sustain you and won't carry you out, you know. Those things are not as important as what I'm thinking about now. But anyway, with that being said, it seems like summers I've noticed have gotten hotter and hotter. I've noticed that over the years. So I do believe climate change is an issue. I would wonder how that would be on the ballot if that's going to even be there. I noticed they haven't talked about climate change. They said that they eliminated the people that were involved in climate change, that those people are no longer working, I believe. They got rid of those people. So, if I'm not mistaken. So, okay. Okay, I think it had to do with energy and environment. Okay, so I'm actually I'm actually in energy and environment in the White House website. And so I have reason to believe that maybe they don't really put a lot of emphasis in it anymore. Um, they're more about economy and things like that, personal gain. But Americans have long been told that our country is running out of energy, but this is what's on the website. Okay, this is not my words, but we now know that it is wrong. So America's energy revolution has produced affordable, reliable energy for customers who want stable, high-paying jobs for small businesses, and all while dropping carbon emissions to the lowest level in 25 years. American energy Policy must balance environmental protection with economic growth. Back to economics in order to encourage innovation, discovery, and prosperity. So there's not that much except that right there. And so the last that I checked, I believe everybody that had to do with energy and with climate change, I believe it's the EPA. And so they, as in the EPA, I believe that most of the people who are involved in that, and Scott Pruitt right now, he resigns because we already know about that situation. So, what is the EPA? Environmental Protection Agency. So he was taking some trips, some laboratory. I'm just saying this without even reading the articles. I've been watching it. He was taking elaborate trips, and he was also mismanaging, I believe, money. And then they said he rented a house for like $50 a month or a week. I think a month. There was a, like it says, a cloud of ethics scandals. So he resigned. And so White House blocks report on chemical pollutants. So the EPA was the Environmental Protection Agency. And so last I checked, the people who were involved in this, they pretty much closed them off, I believe. They didn't really want to acknowledge them as being relevant, I guess. But it says here that they blocked the reports on chemical pollutants. And so this was newly released email shows that the EPA and the White House has halted publication on the new researches. So of course, there's probably something they're hiding with that. And so people will probably kind of already have heard about Scott Pruitt resigning. If you're not into politics, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this guy, he got in trouble for a series of incidents. So anyway, so I'm going to let this go right here. So that's pretty much me. I guess I'm kind of like giving like a little tidbit about who I am too. I'm just a more serious individual. I have different sides to me, but this is actually more me. And I guess that's why I'm like, like, I would like it if I had, didn't, some of the people that I work around, I don't feel like they take me serious because maybe they don't believe that people of my persuasion can be serious, because when they go and talk amongst people that they're used to talking to, it's people they think that they're the only people that think seriously. How am I saying this? I feel like I work around some white people who they think that Black or African American, a female like me, can't be serious and can't be thinking about these types of issues because these are not the kind of topics that we're interested in. We're interested in video vixen, being a video vixen, or hanging out at nightclubs and sleeping around. And I feel like that's the perception that they have in their heads, but I don't fit those perceptions. And so they can't wrap their head around what I'm interested in. And then when I start talking about serious shit, then it's mind-boggling. It's like, wow, we didn't know that people are of this persuasion think about these types of things. They would expect it maybe from somebody if I was like much older, but of my age group, they don't expect it. And so that's the sad part. Really, people of my age group should be thinking like this, and you don't get very many. But anyway, I'm gonna leave this video. It is a hot, hot summer, and I think we are getting our butt kicked by this heat out here. in California, and it seems like every summer it's gotten hotter and hotter and hotter. And so, with that being said, I'm gonna let this video go. But I think if more people talked about, or set up, avenues on what they're gonna do within their own lives to better their situation, then maybe we'd have like more serious thinkers out there. And then maybe some of the things that we're experiencing would have more people who are more proactive about doing things that are beneficial rather than, momentary stuff that doesn't have any value at all. So, like, comment, subscribe.